From here on out, our world tour will take us to locations never before explored in Twisted Metal. But no new vehicles just yet. In fact, this game's roster consists of all the vehicles from Twisted Metal 2, minus one. We'll talk next time about who didn't make the cut. And then Crimson Fury from the first game inexplicably returns. Then there are a handful of new cars, but we won't see them for a little while. Krista was in Twisted Metal 2. Or so it seemed. It turned out in her ending that she was a robot created by the LAPD to transport a bomb over to Calypso and blow him up. So that's not canon. This is the real Krista, and she's a ghost who's been dead since before Twisted Metal started. Calypso brought her back, but he can only do so temporarily. Now her ghost needs to win the competition and wish to be alive again. Otherwise, she's going back to hell. So we certainly wish her the best of luck here in Egypt, which is not actually the next level of the game. After you complete LA, you have a choice to play either Paris or Egypt. It's something they started in black, and it's a great design choice. It encourages you to play the game multiple times, which is how it's meant to be played anyway. So you see new content and you don't have to play the same levels over and over again as you go through each character to see each of their endings. Excellent stuff. And Egypt here is very different from Paris. You get a completely different experience depending on your choice. Egypt seems a decent bit larger, and it's got way more than just the one landmark, which gives you a lot of opportunities to hide and set up ambushes, get ambushed and surprised yourself. It's interesting. I came in here with 4 upgrades, so this 5th one will be my health upgrade, which I desperately need. And Twister almost grabbed it. Any vehicle can grab any of the upgrade pickups. Doesn't actually benefit the AI to do this. They already cheat enough that they have infinite turbo, infinite energy, all the stuff that they would get from upgrades. But it does deprive you of an upgrade. You use Grasshopper Special. When you have it selected, nearby enemies will get a green targeting reticle underneath them, which is your cue to strike. Then Grasshopper leaps up in the air, flings itself at the enemy with 100% perfect accuracy. It is much more useful than the Twisted Metal 2 version, which was pretty hard to hit with. Here, as long as you see that reticle, you are good to go. And you are very unlikely to deal damage to yourself with the special, although it can happen. And it's a pretty big deal when it does, because Grasshopper still has very low armor. It's got 2 out of 10 armor, which means about 95 HP. It differs slightly between each of the cards with 2 points of armor, but that's still the lowest amount of HP you can get, except for the one vehicle that has 1 point of armor. Until we unlock that thing, this is as bad as it gets. It's about to get a little better though. We got our special weapon upgrade. And if you look at the top, it says button mash for more damage. So there you go. Now we jump in the air, we can hammer the fire button. Each time we do, we'll fire a little green bullet. So while we have this upgrade, we're going to want to try and fire our special from as great a distance away as possible, because more airtime means more bullets, which means more damage. I'll try to make the most of that for the short period of time I'm likely to have it. Meanwhile, I did a little research, and it turns out every character in this game who also appeared in Twisted Metal 2 has aged exactly 3 years from their appearance in that game. The one exception is Krista Sparks here. She was 15 when she died, and she's still listed as being 15. So that makes this the 14th competition, taking place in the year 2009. 1 year after the events of Twisted Metal 3 didn't happen, because that game isn't canon. Seems kinda arbitrary, but hell, it was arbitrary that they set the first game in the 10th annual competition. Seems like it should have been the first. Like, the movie Battle Royale is also about an annual murder contest. But the one that they show you is one where something unique and unexpected took place. None of that really happens in Twisted Metal. It all pretty much goes according to plan. So they probably should have just showed them in chronological order, instead of having a decade worth of competitors who came and went and didn't have a story worth telling. Then suddenly, all of them have stories worth telling. Anyway, there's these pyramids. There's 3 of them actually. One of them has Anubis, then the teleporter takes us to the central pyramid. Then you take the same teleporter back to a 3rd pyramid, which has Horus, I believe. Then each of these pyramids has an underground path, which leads to each of the other pyramids. It's a needlessly complicated level structure. It took me a long time to figure it out. And right there at the junction of the 3 paths is supposed to be the full health pickup for the level. I assume one of the enemies went and got it. I don't think it was cut from the PSP version, because I'm pretty sure I've collected it in the PS2 version before. Anyway, that's not the only landmark worth checking out. There's also a Sphinx right in front of the central pyramid. And we can blow it up. But not just its nose. This is Twisted Metal, so we blow up its entire head. And that causes a chain reaction of collapsing pillars right next to it from the falling debris, as well as something of a visual glitch. Part of the head remained after the explosion and then disappeared suddenly. Oh well. Then the collapsing pillars created a crooked path, which leads to an airborne power missile pickup. And if you look up, you'll see a 2nd flying power missile behind this 2nd set of pillars, because when you blow up the Sphinx's head, it can roll in either direction, knock down either set of pillars. Seems to just be completely random which way it goes, sort of like the bikini lady inside the Statue of Liberty back in Twisted Metal 2. And it looks like I'm down to my final life, but we still haven't explored a big chunk of the level. Back here past the central pyramid. It's this area with these broken pillars. It's got a path leading to another power missile, but it's kind of glitchy. I wasn't able to drive up it. In fact, this whole back area is hard to navigate. The floor is very crooked. Without the jump upgrade, you'll have a hard time getting over all the little hills. I tend to get stuck a lot back here. It's got these 4 ramps that lead to an upper level where you can get a bunch of pickups, and then a middle level where you can get even more pickups. And in the Sarlacc pit is where the environmental attack spawns from. It's this sandstorm, which also has lightning bolts inside of it. The lightning bolts are just for show, they don't do anything. But the sandstorm will spin enemies around, deal a decent chunk of damage, and of course lock them in place for further attacks. And here on the other side of the pillar, we can go through the backside of the Sphinx, back into this underground pathway, and here's where it links to the 2 other pyramids in the far corners of the map. I try to avoid the teleporters because I'm never quite sure where I'll end up when I use one. But if you're low on health and you want a safe way to hit some enemies, you can always plant a remote bomb on a teleporter. Then whoever comes through will have no momentum with which to escape the blast radius of the bomb. Not gonna employ that strategy myself because it is boring, but I am gonna go run around and get all the health pickups. You can only make that jump from ramp to ramp if you use the boost and jump all the way at the apex of the ramp, which is kind of awkward. But beyond the ramps is this little secret temple, which has the minigame teleporter and another environmental attack. And in the PSP version, it has a little explorer guy running around in there who you can run over or shoot to amuse yourself. There's actually 2 civilian types that are supposed to appear in this level, the other one being a local Egyptian person. but neither of them appear here in the PS2 version, and I don't know why. Both of them are supposed to be wandering around inside the central temple, and then in the oasis at the other end is where a bunch of Egyptian people will be wandering around. Normally, not here. So it's looking like we are going to get Krista through this level and on to see Calypso. And I didn't just show you 10 minutes of a failed run for no reason. But will she recognize him as her father? Because the Calypso she knows is the one from Twisted Metal 2. Whereas the Calypso in this game mostly resembles the one from Black. He doesn't have the burned face or the big pointy chin that the one in the classic series had. He does have the long white hair, but only in a circle around his bald head. At first I thought they were trying to blend the two designs, but no, it's pretty much just evil Calypso from Sweet Tooth's dark fantasy world. And by the way, if you didn't know, Twisted Metal Black takes place inside Sweet Tooth's head, in a place called the Dark World, which for some reason has more logic and internal consistency to it than the Colorful World where the rest of these games take place, which is supposedly the real world. We will have reason to discuss that subject at greater length later on. But real or not, this is definitely a kinder, gentler Twisted Metal. In fact, Head-On has the unique distinction of being beginner-friendly, unlike all the other games in the series which have impossibly steep learning curves. This one is actually pretty manageable on default difficulty, because difficulty actually affects enemy aggression, not just how often they are allowed to use their infinite stockpile of weapons and energy attacks. So this is a good game to start with, and on the highest difficulty it still provides a satisfying challenge for me, even though I've played a million hours of these games. Still took me all my lives to wrap up this level. Before we leave, I'll just state for posterity that you can destroy the statues of Anubis and Horus. There's just no cool animation to it or anything, so I didn't show it off. But while I'm here, I will show off what it looks like when the Sphinx's head rolls to the right. The ramps it creates are much straighter than the ones on the left, but they're also much steeper, so you have to use the boost to get over them. And it sends you all the way up the side of the pyramid, which you can then surf down. It's pretty cool. Like I said, inside the pyramid is some civilians. There's the explorer guy, and an Egyptian person, just hanging out together inside the pyramid. And don't worry about their well-being. All you gotta do is turn the camera away, and when you turn back, they're fine. No civilians were harmed in the making of this video. All the enemies got plenty harmed though, so Krista has earned a little family reunion.
I knew my beautiful daughter would make me proud.
No, don't.
What is it, my darling?
When you summoned my spirit, you told me that it would only be temporary, and that once I won Twisted Metal, I'd be able to wish for my mortal life back.
That's correct, my dear. What is the problem?
What's the problem? You didn't want to help me! You just wanted another contestant to help kill all those innocent people! You destroy everything and run around like you own the world!
You don't understand.
What happened to my daddy? The daddy I knew was kind and loving. Not someone who would do these horrible and unspeakable things.
Please, it had to be like this. Otherwise, your mind would not...
Daddy, I wish the car accident that killed me and Mommy never happened.
Granted.
Push me, Daddy!
Coming, Krista.
Higher, Daddy! Higher!
Sleep well, my dear. Hopefully this will give you some peace until you're able to wake up.
How long has she been in that coma?
Dunno.
12 years. 15 years. Longer than I've worked here, anyway.
And he just found out?
Hard to believe, right?
Another wish, another ironic twist. This time it almost seems like Calypso screwed himself over, because he wanted Krista's life restored even more than she did. It seemed like he was about to explain why it had to be this way before Krista cut him off to make her wish, but he never got the chance, so for some reason he was able to restore her body but not her mind, which is apparently why she ended up in a coma. It's all needlessly confusing, especially the part where Calypso visits her in the hospital, because he didn't know she was comatose before then somehow, and he does something to ease her suffering. That could have been a hint toward a larger plot, or it could have just been bad, awkward writing. I legitimately have no clue myself. Most of the writing there was pretty good though. They had a bit of a character intro there for Krista, but they wove it seamlessly into her wish. And in her wish, she stated that her mother died in the same crash that she did. Now, in the extremely rare comic book that establishes Calypso's backstory, they show Krista's mother being killed in a separate crash from the one that killed her and Calypso. I guess even the writers of this game didn't know that comic existed, and now that it has been contradicted by official materials, I can safely declare it non-canon to the series. And good riddance, I hate that damn comic. But I'll be providing a link to it once again in the video description, in case you want to hate it too.